I never thought much about that old 24-hour laundromat down by Willow and Pine. It was just there, you know? But when I started working nights at the hospital, it became the only place I could do my laundry. Sunday nights at 3 a.m. became my laundry time. Usually, the place was empty, except for maybe one or two other night owls. That's when I first saw her. This lady, probably in her 50s, with gray hair always pulled back in a tight bun. She never did any laundry, just sat in the same plastic chair in the corner. Week after week, she'd be there, just watching everyone. I named her Elaine in my head because she reminded me of my aunt. I remember this one night I was sorting my clothes and dropped a sock. My back was killing me that day because I'd helped move a patient who fell. That sock just sat there on the dirty floor while I tried to decide if bending over was worth the pain. Then I looked up and caught Elaine staring right at me. She gave me this tiny nod like we shared some secret. After that, I noticed her every week. She never brought laundry, just sat there with a worn paperback book she never seemed to actually read. Sometimes she'd write stuff in a little notebook. I figured maybe she was homeless and just needed somewhere warm to sit. The night attendant never bothered her. My cat had thrown up on my bedsheets that week, which is why I had an extra large load. I was putting quarters in the machine when Elaine actually got up and walked toward me. My heart started beating faster for some reason. She came real close, smelling like old perfume and something medicinal, and whispered, "They're coming back tonight. I can feel it." Then she just walked back to her chair like nothing happened. I tried to ignore her, but I got this weird feeling. That's when I started paying attention to other stuff, like how the security cameras would move slightly whenever certain people came in. Not everyone. Just some. Mostly women about my age and size. The next Sunday, Elaine wasn't there. I asked the guy at the counter, this big dude with tattoos who never looked up from his phone, if he'd seen the older lady who always sat in the corner. "What lady?" he said, not even looking up. "No regulars like that here." I know what I saw. She'd been there every week for months. That night, I had this feeling like someone was watching me. I decided to leave my phone recording in my laundry basket while I went to get coffee from the gas station across the street. My hands were shaking so bad I spilled some on my jacket. I still have that stain. When I got back, nothing seemed different. But later, listening to that recording, I heard someone going through my clothes. Then these quiet voices saying stuff like, "Another dead end," and "Not what we're looking for." My stomach felt like I'd swallowed ice. I called the police the next day. The officer looked bored until I mentioned the laundromat. Then his whole attitude changed. He told me 3 women who looked kinda like me had disappeared after using that laundromat in the past year. All 3 were found in different rivers weeks later, all missing the same internal organs. The laundromat closed down the very next day. The owner, that guy with the tattoos, just vanished. Nobody knew where he went. I changed my phone number after that, but I still get texts sometimes from numbers I don't know, asking if I'm doing laundry tonight or if I need quarters. The police traced the texts. They're coming from a phone registered to an Elaine Mercer. According to official records, she died 2 years before I ever saw her sitting in that plastic chair. Sometimes I still drive by the empty laundromat. The windows are boarded up now, but sometimes I swear I can see the lights on inside, just for a second. I do my laundry at my mom's house these days. I didn't tell you the worst part though. About a month after all this happened, I was cleaning out my wallet and found this little folded piece of paper. I don't remember putting it there. It was torn from a small notebook, the kind Elaine used to write in. All it said was, "You're next," with an address written below it. It was my address, my actual home address, that I never told anyone at that laundromat. I moved out that same week. Didn't even tell my landlord, just left the keys in the mailbox. My friend Jake helped me pack up everything in his truck. We were loading the last boxes when he pointed to my bedroom window and asked, "Who's that?" I looked up and saw a figure standing there, just for a second. It looked like a woman with her hair in a tight bun. The police won't investigate anymore. They say there's nothing to go on. Sometimes my new washing machine makes this weird clicking sound that reminds me of those security cameras moving. And last week, I found a sock in my drawer that isn't mine. It's the exact same type as the one I dropped that night at the laundromat. I keep thinking about what Elaine said. They're coming back tonight. Who was she warning me about? And why me? I don't sleep much anymore, and whenever I hear the sound of washing machines running, I feel like I'm being watched. So, I need to talk about something that happened at my kid's school last year. I'm still not sure what to make of it, honestly. I work in the admin office at Pinewood Elementary. Not the principal or anything fancy like that, just handle paperwork and calls and stuff. Been there almost 8 years now. It was middle of October when Ms. Reeves, one of our 5th grade teachers, called in sick. Nothing weird about that. Teachers get sick all the time, right? What was strange was how this substitute showed up like 15 minutes later. This woman, Ms. Harper. I remember thinking it was weird because I hadn't even put in the request to the district office yet. She just walked in, told me she was there to cover for Ms. Reeves. Had all her paperwork ready too. Background check, teaching certificate, references, everything looked perfect. I figured maybe the principal had called her directly or something, so I just showed her to the classroom. The kids took to her immediately. My son Tommy was in that class, and he came home that first day talking about how awesome Ms. Harper was. Said she knew all these cool science facts and told history stories like she was actually there. I thought it was cute, you know? A teacher who could get 5th graders excited about learning. But then things got, I don't know how to put it, off? Like Tommy would come home with these weird drawings, ancient-looking buildings and symbols I'd never seen before. When I asked where he learned to draw those, he'd just say, "Ms. Harper showed us." And he started having these nightmares. Waking up screaming about when the face slips off. 2 weeks went by, and Ms. Reeves came back. That's when things got really strange. She had no memory of being sick. Said she'd been on a camping trip with her husband, something they'd planned months ago. But there was no record of her requesting time off. And when I mentioned Ms. Harper to other staff, they looked at me like I was crazy. Nobody remembered her except me and the kids. I checked the security footage, thinking maybe I was losing my mind. There was nothing. I mean, I could see myself talking to someone that morning, gesturing toward the hallway, but there was nobody there on the video. Just me, acting like I was having a conversation with thin air. The only proof I had was a class photo taken during those 2 weeks. The photographer had dropped it off a few days after Miss Harper disappeared. In it, all the kids had the same empty look. Like they were there but not really there, you know what I mean? And where Miss Harper should have been standing, it was just a dark blur. After she left, the kids changed. Tommy's grades dropped. He stopped talking much, started sleepwalking. One night I found him in the kitchen at 3 a.m., writing symbols on the wall with a marker. When I asked what he was doing, he spoke in some language I couldn't understand. Other parents noticed it too. Kids having the same nightmares, same behavior problems. Some started therapy. That's when we learned they all had identical memories of special lessons in a basement classroom. Thing is, our school doesn't have a basement. The really scary part happened about a month later. During dinner, Tommy casually described this ancient temple with these specific markings and a hidden chamber. Drew it out on a napkin. 3 weeks after that, I saw on the news that archaeologists discovered that exact same temple in Egypt. They said it had been sealed for thousands of years. The school board brought in specialists. They tested the water fountains and found some weird chemical that supposedly enhances memory but then messes with your brain afterward. The official explanation was that someone had contaminated the water as a prank. I didn't buy it, especially when I heard about 2 other elementary schools in nearby counties that had a substitute named Amelia Harper right before major archaeological discoveries were announced. I tried looking into her background more, but all her references led nowhere. Phone numbers that didn't work, addresses that didn't exist. And then, 6 months after everything happened, there was a system error that wiped out all the school records from that period. Sometimes Tommy still draws those strange symbols. And sometimes, when he thinks I'm not listening, he talks to someone who isn't there. Last week, I found him staring at his classroom photo, the one with the blur where Miss Harper should be. He pointed at it and said, "She told us she'd come back when they find the last temple." I don't know what happened at our school. I don't know who, or what Ms. Harper really was. But I know what I saw, and I know something is coming. This happened a year ago. Yesterday, they announced a major archaeological discovery in South America. I still get goosebumps recounting this experience. 8 months have passed, yet sleep eludes me. The memories persist, vivid and intrusive. Last year, I purchased a Victorian home on Sycamore Street, an unexpected bargain that seemed too fortuitous to question. My sister voiced concerns about the suspiciously low price, but I dismissed her warnings as excessive caution. Some opportunities are simply that. Opportunities. The realtor maintained an air of professional enthusiasm throughout our interactions, but in retrospect, certain moments betrayed her composure. Particularly telling was her hurried mention of the previous owner, a sound engineer who had moved away suddenly. She delivered this information with practiced casualness, her eyes never quite meeting mine. I should have probed deeper. The house initially appeared perfect. 3 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, even a charming porch where I imagined hosting summer gatherings. I recall phoning my mother that first evening, my voice brimming with excitement. "This place is amazing," I exclaimed. Yet even during that conversation, I noticed a peculiar echo on the line, a subtle, rhythmic breathing beneath our exchange. I attributed it to poor reception. 2 weeks into my residency, I began noticing subtle inconsistencies. Objects relocated without my intervention. A coffee mug migrating from counter to sink overnight. More disconcerting were the faint sounds emanating from the heating vents, whispers and muffled sobbing that seemed to travel through the house's circulatory system. My dog Rusty sensed it too. He would fixate on certain vents, his body tense, emitting low whines that raised the hair on my arms. Eventually, he refused to descend the stairs without considerable bribery. Most unsettling was the consistency. These auditory anomalies invariably occurred at precisely 3:17 a.m. Night after night, I'd awaken to check my phone, confirming the exact time. The statistical improbability troubled me more than the sounds themselves. I rationalized these occurrences. Old houses settle, pipes expand and contract. When my friend Mike visited for drinks one evening, and I cautiously mentioned the noises, he laughed it off. "You're just not used to living alone," he insisted. I wanted desperately to believe him. While doing laundry one afternoon, I noticed the basement door's heavy-duty lock, a detail I'd somehow overlooked previously. The key was affixed to the back of the door frame with Scotch tape, an oddly casual security measure given the lock's formidable appearance. My delayed exploration of the basement likely stemmed from subconscious apprehension. When I finally descended, the main area appeared mundane. Concrete floor, laundry appliances, storage shelves. However, an additional door covered in black acoustic foam panels disrupted this normalcy. The room beyond defied casual explanation. Every surface was meticulously soundproofed, creating an unsettling vacuum of silence. Centered in this acoustic void stood a chair bolted to the floor, surrounded by strategically positioned microphones. The setup suggested purpose rather than passion, utility rather than creativity. I discovered the hidden cabinet purely by accident, tripping over a rug and dislodging what proved to be a false wall. Inside were hundreds of carefully labeled cassette tapes. Marcus Day 1, Vanessa Night 3, Jeremy Final Session. Self-preservation dictated immediate retreat, yet curiosity prevailed. I selected a tape marked Catherine Confession and played it. A trembling female voice described my bedroom in meticulous detail. The blue curtains, ceiling crack, even my peculiar habit of arranging shoes beneath the bed. The recording was dated 3 years prior to my purchase. With shaking hands, I researched Dr. Raymond Mercer, learning of 17 disappearances connected to his sound therapy practice. He claimed to have acoustically preserved his victims, a delusional assertion contradicted by forensic analysis, revealing inexplicable anomalies. Voice patterns evolving long after recording, suggesting impossible continued consciousness within the magnetic medium. I fled to my sister's home that night and contacted legal counsel the following morning. I've since relocated to an apartment across town and eliminated my landline connection. Yet occasionally, my cell phone rings, my own number appearing on the screen. When answered, only static greets me, punctuated by whispers forming my name. I no longer answer unrecognized calls, and I never, under any circumstances, record my voice.